I mean, I come from divorced parents. Both of my parents have been married and divorced twice. And I know a few family members have been divorced multiple times, more than the two. Yeah, and I wonder the statistics for like those marriages that have prenups. How long do they actually last? Like, does it actually work? Does it not? And I mean, I feel like when somebody does ask for a prenup, I feel like it's just kind of like that safety blanket. Like you're throwing that blanket, like, okay, well, just in case this doesn't work out, you got your stuff, I got my stuff, whatever. But I not a fan of divorce. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it break a lot of families apart. But I also understand the simple fact, like, okay, if you work to try to make it better and it doesn't work, I understand that because it takes two people to make a marriage, but it also takes two people to keep going. You can't make a marriage keep going with just one person. The other person has to be 100% in to make it. If the other party is not trying to make it work and not trying to put the effort, I feel like it's just kind of wiping your hands clean and leaving. Like you tried, in regards to that, or in circumstances of abuse or toxic relationship that is tearing you down physically or mentally, or you're getting hurt. Yeah, I I believe you need to get out of that situation. Everybody changes. That's not an excuse. But like if somebody's changing and hurting you, or causing distress to the point that it's messing up your mentally or your your spiritual, your faith, I feel like in those cases too, like definitely need to get out of those situations. So I understand those, but yeah, prenups, I feel like they're more of those safety blankets. But I would like to know those statistics on how many marriages actually last with a prenup involved.
I would imagine it's a higher rate of divorce, to be completely and totally honest, because people know that they can walk away from those kind of scot-free. A prenup is another way that makes it okay for you to walk away from a marriage, essentially. Versus if you go into a marriage without one, you then know that when you leave that marriage, it's 50-50. And when two people then decide that they want to be split again, then hey, 50-50 is fair. And people will look at that and say, well, I'm the one that worked for all the money. That person didn't, and all of these things. But it's like, once again, though, you married that person. You decided to make that commitment. So again, I think a prenup is used a little bit as a crutch, because then it's like, okay, hey, I'm safe. I can get out of this marriage, and I don't have to give up anything. I don't have to pay any type of alimony. I don't have to pay spousal support or anything like that. So again, I would imagine that the rate's higher because there's less of a risk of you losing anything. Some people, like, they'll jump into a marriage, and they'll look at marriage as more of a joining of two people to merge finances, to merge influence, which is why you hear this thing of like power couples. It's not always about how much money or how little money. I cannot, say that point enough. It's not always about just having a little bit of money. I've seen so many people that are broke that are happy, and then I've seen people that are really well off that are miserable. So if you're staying in a relationship for financial gain, in a marriage, I should say, not a relationship, if you're staying in a marriage for financial gain, well, you're wrong for that too. Because again, marriage is not about money. Marriage is not about yourself. It's about you and your spouse working together as one, and living life out to its fullest together.
Going back, you said spousal support. That rubs me. I never heard of it when I was younger. Never heard until I got older, probably like maybe mid 20s. I had a friend that I knew that got a divorce and they ended up paying their spousal support. I'm like, what is that? And broke it down to me, and I'm like, hey, I'm not here to judge, but it's like, if I am divorcing somebody, I want clean slate away from that person. Like, I don't want any ties of any spousal. I don't want anything. Like, I can do stuff, but maybe that's the independence in me. Going back, like, I'm a very independent person. I'm and my husband knows that I'm very independent, but I do ask for help once in a while. Um,
Rarely.
I do ask for help once in a while,
Very
but
rarely.
it's but it's just like me personally, I would just say like if I'm getting a divorce from somebody, I want a clean slate. I don't want any ties to that person. I don't want anything. Like leave me be. You go your way, I go my way. That's just how I think of it, but it's just and that would also be a good statistics divorce, like how many actually had to do spousal support.
There's some people that also get married for comfort, and it's not really about the person that they're with. Some people have a really hard time being by themselves. So what they instead will do is they'll find someone to marry so that they have a person. And then if that person leaves or there's a divorce, they still feel connected to that person. If that person is providing spousal support, or if that person, continues to allow them to live maybe in what was a shared home, um, allows them to keep certain possessions. And oftentimes these people that are feeling this way have abandonment issues, and that starts really young. We talked about last week about people that have it grew up without fathers. This also can happen with people that grew up without mothers, without that type of support. These people also will attempt to have a child as quickly as they can, because then they have someone that will not leave them. So the spousal support thing, I'm with you. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand where the psychological portion of it comes from. But if you have barriers that are in the relationship that keeps you together, then you might as well try to work it out. You might as well try to work on it. But it's difficult. I think it's really difficult for people, especially non-believers, who just think of marriage as a piece of paper or as a legal document. That's not how marriage was intended. Marriage was, again, intended to be with two people that are going to live their lives out together and work on it through thick and thin, which is why the marriage vows say what they say. So I believe that a lot of it, like I said, just goes back to previous trauma, especially for those that are holding on to that spouse, even when it's no longer working.
Oh, you putting in that perspective makes sense. Like I said, not here to judge. Some people want to go that route, but me personally, I would not want any ties because that chapter is long and gone. I want to move on to the next chapter in my life, if it's with another person or without, whatever. But I mean, like you were saying, I would make sure I would try to make it work. If it's going to counseling or going to talk to a pastor, also asking God to kind of guide and help. But I feel like if you always put God first before your marriage and as an individual, as a couple, you're always going to get tested. It doesn't matter what your walk with God is or how long, you're always going to be tested as an individual and as a couple. There's always going to be those tests, but those tests make you stronger. They're testimonies at the end of the day, and just keeping those thoughts in your head of like, okay, it's only a test. We can get through this. And it seems like the more tests you go through, it seems like the more harder those tests come through. And it's like, okay, this is really hard. But it's like you look back and you're like, okay, that one was really hard too. But putting God first at the end of the day, I feel like if you are open, biggest key to our relationship is communication with each other, with yourself, with God, having those talks with God, having that relationship with God.